There's a specific kind of silence that happens at 2 a.m. when you're nursing a 6-week-old, and your phone buzzes with a low balance alert, and you can't even reach it because your arm is trapped under a sleeping baby. I remember staring at the ceiling doing math I didn't have the energy for, counting the days left until a paycheck that was already smaller than the one before it because I was 10 weeks into partial pay leave and nobody had warned me how fast partial adds up to not enough. I'm Alora. 3 weeks before that 2 a.m. alert, we got hit with a $410 daycare deposit we'd forgotten was due the same month my pay dropped, and it knocked us into an overdraft for the first time in years, which felt strange for a family that had never bounced a payment before. I remember sitting in my car in the daycare parking lot, baby asleep in the back, feeling like I'd somehow failed at math I used to be good at. That overdraft is actually why this channel exists in the shape it does now. I went back afterward and rebuilt our entire approach to leave, not in theory, but in the exact habits I wish I'd started before my son ever arrived. It's still raising kids and retirement funds around here, but that season it was mostly raising a newborn and rebuilding a bank balance at the same time. If that 2 a.m. low balance alert feels familiar, whether you're pregnant right now, already on leave, or just getting back to work, I'd love for you to subscribe and stay with me. My honest goal is to reach as many moms as I can before they hit that same overdraft, because I know exactly how alone that car seat parking lot moment can feel, and every subscriber genuinely helps this reach one more mom before her own version of it happens. So today I want to walk you through the 6 specific habits that took us from that overdrawn month to actually feeling steady for the rest of my leave, and the ones I'd tell any pregnant friend to start before the baby ever arrives. Habit 1. Know your real leave number before the baby comes. The plain habit is simple. Most of us guess what partial pay will feel like. Almost nobody actually calculates the real number in writing ahead of time. Picture a kitchen table 3 months before a due date, a calculator, a pay stub, and a notepad, working out exactly what a paycheck will shrink to instead of just assuming it'll be fine. Here's the gap that catches people. A mom guessing her leave pay might assume it drops by 20%. The real number, once you actually do the math on partial pay policies, often drops closer to 40 to 50% for several weeks. On a $3,200 monthly paycheck, that's a difference of $600 to $700 a month you didn't plan for. I genuinely did not run this number before my daughter arrived. I assumed it would feel roughly the same as always. It didn't, and that gap between assumption and reality is exactly what led to that overdraft. This week, if you're expecting or planning to be, call your HR department or check your policy and write down the actual dollar amount your paycheck becomes during leave, not the percentage, the real number. Habit 2. Build a separate leave fund, not just a general emergency fund. The habit is treating leave as its own specific dated expense to save for, the same way you'd save for a known trip, not lumping it into a vague general savings account. Picture 2 separate accounts sitting side by side, one labeled emergency fund, untouched, and one labeled leave gap, specifically built to cover the exact shortfall you calculated in habit 1. If your leave gap is $650 a month for 12 weeks, that's roughly $1,950 to save ahead of time. Saved at $150 a month over 13 months of pregnancy, that's a completely manageable, boring, automatic habit instead of a crisis discovered in the delivery room. With my second, we did exactly this, a separate account, funded slowly over the pregnancy. That leave felt almost boringly calm compared to the first. Boring was the whole point. This week, open one account specifically labeled for this, separate from everything else so it can't quietly get spent on something unrelated. Habit 3. Do a 2-month trial run of leave-level spending before the baby arrives. The habit is practicing the leaner budget while you're still earning full pay. So it's not a shock you're learning for the first time while sleep-deprived. Picture 2 months before the due date. living deliberately on the reduced leave level number, with the extra full pay difference automatically routed straight into the leave fund from Habit 2. If your full pay is $3,200 and your leave number is $2,550, that $650 gap redirected for just 2 months adds another $1,300 to your cushion on top of what you'd already saved. And it teaches your household exactly how the leaner version actually feels while you still have backup. We didn't do this before my daughter, and the leave level budget felt like a foreign language I was learning in real time at 2 a.m. with no practice runs. By my second, we'd already lived it once. It wasn't scary the second time. This week, if you're pregnant, pick a future 2-month window and try living on your projected leave number now while you can still course correct. Habit 4. Pause or renegotiate every non-essential recurring bill before leave starts. The habit is auditing every single subscription and recurring charge before leave begins, not during it, when there's zero energy left for phone calls to cancel things. Picture a Sunday afternoon at 36 weeks pregnant, going through the bank statement line by line, pausing a streaming service, canceling a gym membership you haven't used in months, calling to renegotiate the internet bill. A typical household audit like this often finds $80 to $150 a month in things that were running quietly on autopilot. Over a 12-week leave, that's $240 to $450 back in your pocket, found simply by looking, not by earning a single extra dollar. After that first overdraft, I finally did this audit and found we were paying for 2 streaming services we'd forgotten we still had, plus a subscription box neither of us remembered signing up for. It took 20 minutes and it mattered. This week, go through your last bank statement line by line and circle anything recurring you don't clearly remember choosing. I want to pause here for a second. If you're pregnant right now reading all of this and feeling a little overwhelmed, please hear me say this calmly. You don't need all 6 of these at once. Even one of them started this week changes the story. I'd love for you to subscribe and let me walk through the rest of this with you, because that's exactly what I'm here for. Habit 5. Have one specific money conversation with your partner before leave ends. The habit is setting a specific date before leave ends to talk through what the return to work actually costs and changes, instead of assuming it'll sort itself out. Picture a couple at the kitchen table 2 weeks before returning to work, talking through daycare start dates, the first full paycheck's actual arrival date, and who's handling drop-off, instead of discovering the gaps on day 1 back. Here's the stake most people miss. Daycare often starts and gets billed 1 to 2 weeks before your first full paycheck actually lands. That's a real $400 to $800 gap that catches families off guard almost every single time, purely from bad timing, not bad budgeting. We didn't have this conversation with our first, and the daycare deposit hit before either of our paychecks had normalized again. With our second, we scheduled the conversation on the calendar 2 weeks out on purpose, and it changed everything about how that return felt. This week, or whenever you're approaching your own return, put one specific date on the calendar to talk through exactly this timing gap with your partner. Habit 6. Check the account weekly during leave instead of avoiding it. The habit is looking at the balance on purpose, once a week, instead of letting fear turn into avoidance during the exact season you can least afford surprises. Picture Sunday evening, baby finally asleep, 5 quiet minutes spent glancing at the account on purpose, instead of the old pattern of avoiding the app entirely because looking felt scarier than not knowing. Families who check weekly tend to catch a shortfall while it's still a $100 problem. Families who avoid the app for a month at a time, the way I did before that overdraft, tend to catch the exact same shortfall once it's already a $300 problem with fees attached. That 2 a.m. low balance alert I mentioned at the start only felt like a shock because I hadn't looked in almost 3 weeks. Once I started checking weekly, nothing ever surprised me like that again. This week, whatever season you're in, pick one recurring day and time to look at your account on purpose. Small and boring on repeat is exactly the point. So think back to that 2 a.m. alert, my arm trapped under a sleeping baby, doing math I didn't have the energy for. None of these 6 habits are really about spreadsheets or bank apps. They're about refusing to let exhaustion and love for a brand new baby become the reason your family gets blindsided by money you could have planned for months in advance. Steady isn't something that happens to you during leave. It's something you quietly build before it, 1 habit at a time. If this helped you feel a little more prepared for your own version of that season, I'm Alora, this is Finance Mom, and I genuinely love it if you'd subscribe and stay with me. I'm making one of these every week for moms building calm into exactly this kind of chaos, and I'd love for you to be part of it.